And the
Uh,
quiz, sorry,
Miss Fuller, just a question. What format will the quiz take? Is it short
it's
answers?
yeah, 25 questions is multiple choice.
Okay, ma'am.
Very, very, very easy.
Okay.
Very easy. Yeah. Um, yeah,
Hi,
so
Ms.
that's the
Good
quiz.
good
Hello,
night.
how are you today?
I'm good. I just came into the class today, so I'm kind of lost as to the dates. You're talking about a quiz, and next week is an assignment. So last week, were this discussed last week? Was this
No,
discussed?
we actually have an agenda. Did you get a copy of the agenda?
No, ma'am. I just
You didn't
got
get
into
anything?
class. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what I'll do for you is I will send you an email with all the information.
Mm-hmm.
And normally when you miss some of the information, you get to know your class members and they bring you up to date on what you would have missed. But I will give you as much information as possible and try and walk you through it. But try to get to know your class members by the end of this class. Say hello to everybody and see who can help you, get you up to date. But I'll get you up to date as much as possible.
Miss Fuller,
Yes.
Tanishka, is that
Yeah.
Tanishka from First Fidelity
Yeah.
Banking Law class?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
Kendrick
okay.
actually message you.
Excellent, excellent. You have a
Message me
friend.
because my phone went dead and I lost your number.
Okay.
Message me.
Okay,
Okay.
see, so you're in great hands. I'm going to send you the email, and that's it. Kendrick will take you through it. Excellent. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Kendrick, for reaching out.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, so everything is on the agenda, and then I perhaps will give you some extra time to catch up or present. So the speech is going to be due on February 9th. And because of how do you feel about the cameras being on versus the cameras being off? Because I feel like I would get more feedback if the camera's on. And so I understand you had a long day at work, you just want to relax, and perhaps the camera being off will, it assists you in some ways. And then those of you who are at home, perhaps you don't want to get dressed or what have you. So I understand. But to me, this is a discussion based class. What is supposed to happen is you're supposed to read. Can somebody mute their mic, please? I'm having some background noise. Yeah, thank you so much. So what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to read the chapter, and then we are just supposed to come in and discuss. And so sometimes people get frustrated with us reading, but if you didn't read, it's very hard. I don't have all of this in my brain. We have to go through it for me to pick out the pieces that are very important to discuss. And so um, it'll help if we read some of it, or you read some of it and you have questions. But if you don't have any questions, then we have to read. And so once we read, sometimes I'm calling out names and I'm asking questions, and the same people are responding every single time. And then because I'm familiar with other persons, I normally call on them all the time. So I'm wondering if the feedback would be better if we had the cameras on, or are you opposed to having these cameras on? Majority will rule. Denise camera already on, so Denise, this question here for you. Kendrick, what is your take?
If I turn on my camera, y'all can catch me eating some chicken and fries.
Sorry, I can't hear you. I couldn't hear you.
I was saying, if I turn my camera on, y'all can catch me eating some chicken and fries.
Oh, okay, okay. So eat your chicken and fries and be so right. So it is convenient for some persons, and it doesn't matter if you want your camera on, fine. If you don't want it on, it's fine with me. However, I'm asking this because I just want you to be prepared. So your speeches you have to email to me. Let me look at the calendar one more time. So the speech is due for presentation on the 9th. So you have to email your speech to me on February 7th, and you actually have to present it to the class on Tuesday, February the 9th. And so on that day, please prepare yourself, have your camera on, and be ready to present. Okay? So at least you have some advance notice. But outside of when you have to present, the midterm is going to be face to face, so you're going to go into the institute to take the midterm as well as the final exam, and the quizzes are going to be take home homework. So that's okay. So only when you're making a presentation and it's going to be the one on February 9th, and then the one towards the end with your mentoring, which is on the 30th, March 30th. So that's the only 2 times you really need to have the camera on, but I do need the constant feedback and us just to be discussion based, not so much reading, and for everybody to be engaged. Okay? Or else Ms. Bullard is gonna have to say, cameras on every class.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, good. So there you go. So if y'all don't want cameras on every class, everybody, get their 10%. Okay, some people have it already because they have contributed. I've called on them so much. Okay, so are we good with the dates on the agenda?
Can I get like a copy of the agenda? I don't think I have it.
Okay, so right after the class, Tanishka and Yuri, if you want to give me a minute, let me just forward it. Yuri, I don't even know if I have your email address, but let me just go into my email.
Okay.
So class, just give me a minute so they can at least start to look at it. Let me see what I would have sent. Where is it? Okay, Tanishka, I'm just getting your email address. Yuri, I don't have an email. Have you received any email from me at all?
No, I haven't.
Yuri?
No, I
Not
haven't.
yet. I received an email from Miguel. That's how I got the link tonight.
No, sorry, Tanishka, I mean Yuri.
No, I haven't.
Oh, sorry.
No, you haven't received anything. Okay. Okay, so let me see if I can slip this over to you. 1 second, and so you'll at least know what I'm talking about. Where is it? Okay, whilst I look, it should be coming in a second. I'm just going through my email, but I don't want to hold up the class any further. So are we good with the dates? Thank you, Kendrick, for the feedback about the paper. Do we need some class time? Are you finding it difficult to find time throughout the week, or give me some feedback?
It's just been a little chaotic with some items going on right now. And my plan was to start this week again to what aspect I was looking at, why leaders fail. So I've already begun mentally compiling at least 3 points to expound upon and to go from there. I should be able to have everything that I need by the end of the week, meaning I would have about 6 days to have it completed and emailed to you. I should be able to get that done.
Okay, so would it be helpful if we arrange some class time next week, since it's due the week after?
I can't speak for everybody, but I think I should be okay.
You should be okay. Okay.
I should be okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else want some class time? Because I know normally you're going all week, but this time is set aside for class. So perhaps if you have some class time to complete it, that would help. Would that help anybody else? No? Okay. Okay. So good luck. And I hope everybody gets through it. Yuri, can you give me your email address, please?
URI.
Yes.
J as in jump. B as in ball. At yahoo.com.
So it's URIJB@yahoo.com.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. So there we go. Okay, so you should have received, it's going through now. It's from tbullet1800@gmail.com in case it goes into your junk. That's 3 attachments. Okay? Okay.
Let's pull it in regards to the, I think it's the Toastmasters or Rotary. I didn't get any. Can you resend an invite if you sent it out for me, please?
Okay, yes, I actually sent an email out to one of my students in my other class, and she did send some information. So she said she was going to get the invite. So as soon as I'm going to follow up to see if she gets the invite. And her name is Brenda Pinder, so you may get an invite from Brenda Pinder or Maria. I don't know Maria's last name. So look out for an email from Maria or Brenda, and I'll ensure that you get it, next week or the week after. Club 1600. Anybody familiar with Club 1600?
Is that Toastmasters the one that's only for men?
Yeah, it's a Toastmasters that's only for men. And every year they do a program for Valentine's Day that they do for women. So the general public is invited. But last year, I think about 3 of my classes went in. It was very, very raunchy. And so, I mean, they met a lot of people and they said, we know what the point of it was, but it was very, very raunchy. And so I'm careful now if I invite persons to that. But I've been in years past, and normally each, the various Toastmasters group, they come in, and so that's where you network and you meet loads and loads of people. So hopefully, I don't know what their theme is for this year, and I will look that up as well. But if it's a little raunchy, y'all don't come back to class and say, Miss Bullet, send us to this, and it was not appropriate. Okay, y'all don't blame me. But it's normally very, very good.
I'd like to go to that same 1600 one, please.
Okay, so for Valentine's, you want to go and see, or no, like I say, normally they're in line, but of course, every year they need a new theme, they want to make it different and interesting. And so that last year's theme was a bit, but nevertheless, they met persons and they did, they went on to other clubs because, like I said, that's the night when all clubs from around the Bahamas come together. And so the females were able to sign up to other clubs and they are now members. Okay, so I will look both, get that from Maria and from Brenda. And then I will look up the Toastmasters 1600 to see if they have their flyer out, because it's normally a flyer where they invite everybody. And I'll let y'all know.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, all right. So any other questions?
Yes. What are we doing? We just going to listen, or we have to present something when we come back to class? What do you require from us?
Okay, so the class or the course is discussion based. So each week, if you look at the agenda, there are dates and chapters that you should read. So you read the chapters and then you come to class and then we discuss it. There was a speech that we read in the first class.
Sorry, no, Miss Bullet. I'm meaning with the Toastmaster.
With the Toastmaster.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought this was a new person.
No.
Denise.
This
Okay.
Denise.
Okay, so with Toastmasters, you just go there and you tell us about your experience. You tell us who you would have met and just a brief. They normally have a word for the night and they normally have a discussion. So you come and you share the discussion with us.
Okay.
All right. That's all. And then you get the 5 extra bonus points.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, I'm just saying good night to Margaret. Yes, Margaret, I see your thing with your mic. Okay, so good. Okay, but Margaret can hear us. Okay, good. All right, very good. Okay, so in terms of chapter 3 and chapter 12, did anybody get the opportunity to read it, or was it just a rough week and we just need to get through it?
Got to chapter 3, dabbled in chapter 12.
Okay. Anybody else?
I didn't get a chance to read all of it.
Yeah, I wasn't able to look at any of them.
Okay, but we know for the most part that chapter 3 talks about planning and goal setting and the importance of it. And then chapter 12 talks about performance appraisals, correct?
Yeah, that's the thing, performance appraisal.
Appraisals, right, okay. So it sounds like it's a source for it. So we want to make sure that we get some information on overview on how it should be done and, making sure that it's done correctly, because for many years, that's been a sore spot for a lot of us in the institution, and it's a part of why we hate our jobs, and we hate our supervisors, and we hate going to work every day. But hopefully, if we learn how to appraise persons properly, all of that is that helps, that people feel appreciated, that they are part of a team, that their contribution is valuable, and it helps with them being happy, with coming to work. And once persons get that content feeling, I may not be passionate about this job, but I I'm going to show up to work. I'm aware of their vision, mission, and goals, and so I'm going to be productive. And so that's what the book starts off with. In chapter 3, it talks about productivity. Anybody know what productivity is?
That's our output, and it's usually measured in hours and labor hours.
Okay. And the book also goes on to give us I think, which page is that on? It gives us a
59.
59.
59, yeah. So it gives us in the simplest form. Remember, in maths, how do we calculate this? If we wanted to come up with a number, how do we measure it? So productivity is a way to essentially measure efficiency, or how fast are you producing something. Is the rate at which goods and services can be produced. And so normally this is one of the multiple choice questions that you would get. What is productivity in the simplest form? So of course, they will have the labor on top, or the capital on the top, or capital equals this. So look at that productivity in the simplest form, and ensure that you understand how to explain it, or what the simplest form calculation is for it. So basically, each organization, we have staff members, we expect persons to perform when they come to work, and goal setting and the performance appraisal is what really helps us to distinguish, is this person showing up to work and being productive, or is this person that's showing up to work? And I think in class, in the previous class, we talked about, we have some persons that show up from 7 a.m. and they stay until 7 p.m. And the old way, they used to look at these people and say, oh my God, these people are very diligent. They're here from 7 a.m. in the morning, they stay till 7 p.m. But when they took a closer look, we found that, they weren't really being productive. Those people came at 7 a.m. in the morning and they socialized. They went to the break room, they made tea and coffee, they sat down, talked about what happened the day before. Then they show up to their desk at 9 o'clock. They work at they lunchtime, they do the same thing again. And then at 5 o'clock, they stop work and they socialize again because they have friends at work. But a lot of supervisors in the past, like, you didn't really have to show up to work and be productive. You had to show up to work and be there for an extensive period of time. And nobody really, this was my experience. They never really watched what you did. But if you was there early and stayed late, you was the person. Okay? And you was in that certain clique where they felt like, oh, you should be promoted. And when you spoke to them, they said, why are we promoting Kendrick? Well, Kendrick is here from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Right? Does any of us have that incident, or have that experience before, where the person does not normally, is not productive, but their mere
Yes.
presence makes people
Hey,
feel like,
let's be careful now. Miguel recording this, and this get on YouTube.
yeah, no, it's gonna be only for the persons within this class. So you don't have to be afraid to talk. I say everything, and I work for them. That this is free speech. This is what this class is all about. We wanna get to the nitty gritty, so at least we can walk away knowing the truth. We are not being politically correct, right?
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Okay.
Say okay. No, but okay, good. So we don't want to say any experiences, but we understand what Miss Bullet talking about, when the person isn't being productive, but they there. So that's that's the best employee, or that's the number one, because they there for a long period of time. Okay. So the book goes on to saying, defining the objectives and goals, establishing overall strategy for achieving those goals, and developing a comprehensive hierarchy of functions to integrate and coordinate activities. All of this encompasses planning or defines planning. For the purpose, we treat terms, objectives, and goals as interchangeable. Each is meant to convey some desired outcome that an organization, department, work group, or individual seeks to achieve. Okay? And then it goes on to talk about what is formal planning. And so I had asked everybody from the first class to go and find out what the vision or the mission or the objectives of their organization is. And so Kendrick, of course, said he knew it. So very good, Kendrick, but there was 2 or 3 of you who said, no, I don't even know. So I'm showing up every day. And if I was a supervisor, I cannot, when will you find out what the objectives of the company is that you work for? What's their strategy? How will you formulate a goal? And I think one of the problems that we have for so long in these institutions is that we really don't know what the commitments are. We don't know what the values are. So, but we blindly every year, because we are supposed to check the box, and we are to write these goals and go through the performance appraisal um, tradition. It's a tradition, or this is a function, and after this depends on, or this determines how I get my raise, if I get a raise, or if I'm promoted. And so we go through the motions, but do we truly set smart goals? Do we know what the objectives are, or what the vision and mission is? Anybody except Kendrick, because Kendrick said he knows. Anybody else? No?
I never really see one. I know a slogan, but not the mission.
Okay. Yeah, so normally the slogan is just like a catchy phrase that they normally
Yeah,
use
it's just
for
like a little,
um
you know.
right. But so how do you find out? Is there an employee manual?
No, my work don't have no kind of paperwork like that, so
So there's nothing online,
I
there's
never
no
signed
internet,
a
there's no
contract or nothing like that. No,
My,
no, ma'am.
and you work in a financial institution?
No, I work in
Okay.
a wholesale bar, so
Oh, okay. Okay, so
it
it's a
isn't
little
well as
different. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, it's a little
established as the other. Yeah.
okay, it's a little different. Okay, but if you work primarily, the persons people can come from all walks of life, so that's fine. But the majority of persons are from the financial services sector. And so normally these organizations they have heavy policy and procedure, and they are organized with vision and mission and goals. So I understand, like you say, wholesale industry, so that's fine. But anybody else in the financial services sector, and there's no code of conduct or an employee manual based on, what behaviors are acceptable and not acceptable, a code of conduct. For
yeah,
the most part, all of us have that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Yuri, you went out to find out what the goals are, or the vision or mission statement of your company is, yeah?
I'm familiar with the mission statement, the core values, and the guidelines of business conduct of uh, my employees. So the mission statement is basically
Okay, can you speak up a little bit? I can't really hear you.
you can hear me now.
Yeah, you sound a little muffled, but it's better.
The mission statement is we are committed to being the institution of choice in the financial sector, providing superior products and services, and being a good corporate citizen to the benefit of our customers, shareholders, and staff.
Okay, and so that's where it starts, Yuri. That's where goal setting starts. That's where planning starts. It starts with what the overall statement of the bank is, what their beliefs is, what their values are, what they want to achieve. And so you take that and then you say, how now do I have this department? How do I help the bank achieve this goal? And then some person somewhere in head office, their mandate or they're mandated to say, for this particular department, especially if it's credit, we expect them to to go out and get sales to the sum of whatever amount, $1 million for this year. Okay, so you as a supervisor, when they come and they say your department needs to, in our plan, we sat down and we planned, and we decided that your department needs to come up, make $1 million in sales this year. What do you say?
Are you giving me the $1 million?
Okay, so do you not ask how did you come up with this number? Where, like, did you just put it out of your head, or what makes you feel that way, or give me some metrics based on how this number came about?
Right.
And they would sometimes give you, say, these are the expenses for your department. And so therefore you have 10 persons, and perhaps some of us at supervisory level don't see this, but at the executive level, we see this. The cost of, let's just say, Yuri's department is $50,000 to operate, operational expenses, salaries, and what have you. And so therefore, if we want to profit, markup is normally 71%. In the Bahamas, that is. And so we would need to add 71%, but some persons in the Bahamas, they mark up like 100%, and so based on the expenses that your department incurs, if you want to keep the amount of bodies that you have in your department, we would need your department to be profitable and make this $1 million in sales for us. Okay, and some departments don't bring in sales. Some departments, like compliance, make no money for the business, but it's very costly. And so they have other targets to meet to ensure that the bank or the organization operates sufficiently. But you have to plan first. You have to know what your costs are, and then what percentage do you expect to make. But a lot of things affect, you may want to make that $1 million, or you may want to mark up 71%, but we have to look at different factors that may affect you generating that type of sale, and especially in these types of times. So what types of things could possibly affect us or cause us not to meet this target?
We can look at matters going on in the world economy-wise.
Correct. Suppose our market was the Atlantis and Bahama employees.
Well, we will definitely be in the deficit due to current world events such as the pandemic. Since the pandemic occurred, a lot of participants in the tourism industry were laid off, furloughed, and they won't be considered non-resilient recipients for receiving credit because they're considered high risk in paying back debts.
Okay, and then a lot of persons are unemployed right now. So This is 2021. We're experiencing a pandemic. Normally, our plan stays the same, right? Our strategic goals and our mission and our vision. And we normally say, Yuri's department has these 10 employees, and we mark up this amount. But what do we do this year? How would we change our plans this year when there's a worldwide pandemic and the target market is Atlantis and Bahama? So that means 80% of the sales that you were generating were coming from those two organizations. So the net effect is, what do you do? How do you plan now for a year 2021?
Well, obviously, since we don't have the 80% that goes to, we have to resort to the 20% because we still have the remainder that still works. We have employees in the government sector that are still being paid regularly. You still have military, police, defense watch that still work. You still have the healthcare providers that who haven't stopped working that still receive a salary. Doctors receive a substantial amount a substantial salary, so you could target those nurses, security guards. They'll also be considered eligible because they have to
Yeah,
have
so all the
clean buildings.
essential workers that
Right, all
perhaps
the essential
you
workers.
did not pay attention to so much before because you had the big share of Atlantis or Bahama. Now you have to change your plan from what it has ideally been for, let's say, the last 10 years to incorporate some new persons, and then perhaps their spending or buying habits may be completely different from those in the tourism sector. So again, now with you then have to bring in the marketing department then to change their strategy, because before you would have get, you know, all your marketing I guess advances towards hotel employees. Now, like you said, something needs to come up for this month, and they normally have a different event, or what you know what I mean, like on the spot financing or whatever. Everything was geared towards hotel employees, and now you have to go out into the market and say, you know, let's make an offering to, like you said, the security guards or the police, or basically whomever is working, you know. And so a lot of things would have had to go, you know, when you sit down. That's why it's important to know what your costs are, what your markup is, what really, who is your target market, because all these things affect, you know, when you sit down and write these scores. Because last year you may have made $2 million, not last year, in 2019 you may have made $2 million, but in 2020 when the pandemic hit, everybody who would have already planned in January for the entire year would have had to, by the time March came around, almost everybody would have had to adjust their forecast, adjust their planning, because simply because of the pandemic and the world was affected. Okay, so sometimes you sit down and formulate these plans, and you, of course, carbon copy from years before, but things happen. The economy changes. Sometimes there's a crash. Sometimes it just happens to a particular sector, and for the first time now, it has happened to the world. Okay, and so all of this planning encourages you to ensure that you can have a formal plan, but you need to also have a backup plan, because almost everybody in the world needed a backup plan in 2020, because supervisors or managers, I guess it started at the executive level, they were tasked with, how do I keep all my staff when I know that I'm not going to meet my goals this year? What do I do? Okay, and of course, persons were afraid. There was a lot of uncertainty. People didn't know how to work from home. You absolutely, you know, one company told me that they didn't even have computers for their staff to work from home. Like normally only the executives have VPN, and for years they didn't want to invest, you know, to make sure the entire body could work from home. But I think, I don't know if the banks ever closed down, but for the most part, 80% of the economy was shut down. What was very strange for me was that the banks that have an offshore arm, like the Scotia and the CIBC, I'm not certain about Scotia, but I know for sure CIBC, the persons in my class at that time said, we are not opening up accounts because we have to do the social distancing, and we are not having people come into the bank, or what have you. And so that really, really confused me, because for years, CIBC had the corporate, the offshore arm, where there is no contact and there is only online, you know, exchange of information and what have you. And so primarily, how do you generate your sales? By opening up accounts and from fees. And so if you shut off, or you no longer offer the service that generates the majority of the money or the fees, how are you going to survive? And especially when the offshore side has been doing this for years, opening accounts online. So it shocked me that their first instinct was not to, I guess they would have had to invest in systems and invest in training, but they just shut off account opening. And this was their number one sales generating. If you're opening an account and you're not giving loans, how are you making money? If you're not generating fees, how are you making money? And so I don't know. That's what happened due to the pandemic. And for some reason they were not prepared. They were not prepared. Even though we have these contingency plans and we have these business impact analysis and all these things, they were not prepared. Okay. Um, Formal planning, specific goals are formulated, um, committed to writing, and make available to, informal planning, specific goals are formulated, committed to writing, and made available to the organization's members. Additionally, specific action programs exist in formal planning to define the path of the achievement of each goal. Many supervisors engage in informal planning. They have plans in their heads, but nothing is written down, and there's little or no sharing of these plans with others. Okay, and so what does that cost when when we just have these plans in our head, we're not sharing it with our department, and in fact, each of us, I don't think any of us work in a department with less than two persons. Normally, you work in an apartment or you're on a team with 10 persons, but only one person makes the decisions. Only one person plans. That's why you have a team. Whenever you have a team, it's for you to use, you know, their brains to think, to brainstorm, to come up with ideas on how you could be innovative. They're working every day, and so at a certain point of the day, they should have some time to sit down and think, how do I make this more efficient? How do we become productive? How do we get to the level of customer service that we are supposed to be? Are we using our teams? Are you finding that your supervisors are, because most of you said you're not supervisors, but are you being engaged, or are you showing up every day and you're following a procedure, and you just go by what the procedure says, and that's it? Are we engaging our teams? Anybody? Y'all listening to me? Y'all out there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so are you being engaged in decision making, or is it just your supervisor making the
I
plans?
don't have a supervisor.
Okay,
Where he is, it's like I am the supervisor for my shift.
okay. But do you have suggestions on how to become more efficient and offer better customer service?
Yeah, we just had a little bit of planning to try to draw in more of a crowd to have more specials going on and things like that.
Okay, because you do understand that if the crowd does not come, and
Then
that's
you
low
don't make no
cost, you
money.
don't make no money. And I think if the pandemic should have at least taught us that. You know what I mean? That everybody now is essential in the organization, and if there's a team, listen, there's a target, and definitely.
Everybody don't try to be a team. It's like it's like some of them really don't see it like how business really gone down. But
Oh,
I
but
guess if the time come, if if the boss would have to say they have to let one or two people go, then they would try to see it.
okay, right, and so again, we don't want to be reactive. We don't want the boss to be coming to say, "Oh, it's time. Sorry, Tanishka. Sorry, Denise. We just ain't cutting it. The expenses are more than our profit, and so we have to let you go." So we don't want to be reactive and say, "Oh, no, no, no. Let us come up with a plan now." Right? We want to find out what the plan is, because most of us work in organizations where there is a plan, and definitely there's a plan for your department, right? You need to find out right now, is the plan in your supervisor's head, or is it a formal
Mhm.
plan that could be discussed? Did they share it with you? Did everybody brainstorm and give ideas? Which point are we at? Where are we at, Kendrick? Do you know what the plan is for your department? Do you know what the targets are to be met? Do you know what they were last year and the year before versus what the expectation is? Did you get a chance to give some suggestions? Kendra? Okay, Kendra going on
Can I
mute.
go to go asleep?
Yeah, Kendra going on a break. You see why these cameras could be
Listen,
on?
I am not asleep. Y'all stop.
No, you should.
I'm
Okay, we
sitting
wake
right
you up.
here.
We wake you up. Okay.
No, I know what some of the plans is. I was fortunate enough to get my goals on the end of last week.
Okay.
And they were displayed to me. And me and my manager should have a coaching session this upcoming week where we devise a plan moving forward on how those astronomical goals are going to be accomplished this year. But we have been given those figures and those expectations that management has passed down.
Okay. So have you heard, Kendrick, before about SMART goals?
Uh, Smart goals. I think, yeah, I've heard about it. It
And it's the
basically,
acronym. Yeah, go
uh,
ahead.
we're recording, and sometimes, just generally speaking, I don't think that some of our goals are feasible based upon the market that we're in, the economy that we're in right now. Based on the fact I'm a collections officer, and in this particular period, using the um, hotel sector, for instance, if I was working the Commonwealth Bank and in their collections department, seeing that their portfolio is so large, largely based in hospitality industry, that'd be crazy. But generally speaking, I don't think sometimes that our targets, I think it is more or less, let's push you beyond your limits of where you think you can go. But to look at it with the naked eye, I don't think it's feasible. Not in the climate what we're in, and the economy being in the position that it's in. I don't think some of it is. This person still have to eat. BPL still turning people off.
Mm.
Okay, and still credit cards gotta pay. Still ETC, you gotta keep your internet on because the children gotta go to school online. All of these various different factors.
Okay.
As a
Okay.
country, okay.
Yeah, so as the world is going through this, not just the country. Okay, and so that's the importance of this. We want to ensure that even though the market is the way it is and the conditions, it's affecting everybody. We want to ensure that we have SMART goals, and that's SMART. We want to make sure that they're specific. We want to know how exactly are you planning to accomplish this goal. We want to ensure that they are measurable. Can you evaluate whether or not you can meet this goal? And like you said, we have to look at the market. We have to look at the economy. That is what we look at each year when we hit the mark. So this year, when we are going to miss the mark, we need a backup plan. And this is why we need everybody involved to come up with an innovative way where we can set a measurable goal. Let me tell you what happened. I told y'all a story last week. I think I told y'all where, we were surprised that the person in Freeport won the salesperson of the year. I told y'all that story last year, right? I mean, last week.
No,
No, I didn't tell y'all that story.
no.
Okay, so let me tell you. Okay, let me just go over this. It's specific. It's clear and concrete. It's measurable. You can attain this goal or meet it. It's achievable. It's possible and it's realistic. It's relevant. It connects back to the big objectives and the overall strategic plan. And it's time bound. Has some time components in it, or a deadline, or it talks about frequency. You must do this once a week or twice a week or whatever. So you don't want these vague, wishy-washy types of dreams that are not achievable. And then you also and it's happening in a lot of organizations right now. They say when the market is bullish, you be bearish, and when the market is bearish, you be bullish. or sometimes you're in the valley, or sometimes you're in the mount on top of the mountain. Me right now. Okay, again, some feedback. Can you mute your mic, please? Right
Okay.
now, right now we in the valley. Okay, and so we have to, we are thankful, but we want to be able to survive these jobs. And a few years ago, we had two of the very large banks set unrealistic goals. And so we know what the market is, how it is compared to Nassau and Freeport. We know that the market in Freeport is much slower or far behind the market in Nassau. And so the same goal was set for Nassau and Freeport. And persons, again, supervisors, had talked about it in their heads. Everybody was afraid to speak up. And so the goal was out there. The people in Nassau were saying, "Oh my God, this no way we could meet this um, because of the economy and what have you." And so it's not realistic. But they took on a goal at the beginning of the year, knowing that the economy was on a downturn and there was no way they could meet it. Nobody spoke up. They gave the same goal to Freeport. Nobody spoke up. Right? The year before, one company had let 130 persons go because they did not meet their sales target. And so most salespersons, there are a few banks in the 5 banks in the Bahamas. So if you had to work at a Scotia, Fidelity, one of the credit unions, or so on. And so 130 persons were let go, and that put fear into those persons, or that put fear into everybody who was left, and other persons who heard about it. Oh my God, they letting you go because you're not meeting the very unrealistic goal. But that same year, the person in Freeport won in, I guess, employee salesperson of the year or what have you. And used to get money and a big prize. Royal Bank actually let you go on a cruise. So you won a cruise for that, if you won the salesperson for the year. And we sat in the award ceremony, and they said this person had won from Freeport. And everybody who was in audit and compliance, and even the legal team, started talking. They said, no way possible. There was no way possible. No, somebody in Nassau could win it. So definitely no way possible in Freeport could win it. And right from that same, the person went up, got their award, did whatever. Everybody was happy and surprised. And immediately that Monday, we started getting emails. How was it this possible? How was it the economy? Blah, blah, blah. When we started our investigation, what we found was that um, people would come in to get, say, a $2,000 loan. And when they got that $2,000 loan, whether they qualified or not, they also got a credit card, they got a line of credit, they got insurance, they got all sorts of products and services that they did not apply for. And then that salesperson in Freeport turned them off before the first payment was due. And so all they had to do was open it on the system. Whomever opened it on the system would record it and never look back at it. And so that went down as a new product or service that was offered, even though it closed out. And so they did that for thousands and thousands of every single customer that came into that Freeport branch got 6 or 7 products or services that they knew nothing about. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. And so that is the net effect of unachievable goals that are not realistic and not measurable. Okay. That's the net effect of poor planning. Okay. A lot of people lose their job, and a lot of people engage in stealing. And when we went through the various branches, we saw that it was an entire ring that did the same thing to make it appear as if they, you know what I mean? They would have sold these goods and services or products and services. And that's how and a lot of them over the years went on their cruises, got their money, and all their accolades for being the top salespersons, or the quarter or the year or what have you. Okay? But it brought to audit's attention that these goals are not SMART goals. And so we took it to the, executive team. They do? They did a little bit better right then because they know they were on increased controls. But I think it's the pressure is coming down that your department's cost or operating expenses this. If your team doesn't make that, then we have to start to let people go. And then you have some managers who, they willing to compromise themselves so people don't suffer, but it's still wrong. Okay, so please, like I said, one of the biggest problems is, first of all, we don't know what our strategic goals are. We don't know what our organization um, goals are. We don't know what the vision and the mission is. The next one is we don't know what the plan is. So good for you, Kendrick, that you're gonna sit down and speak to your supervisor and you're gonna say, hey, how are we gonna make this work? Okay, and you could sit there and tell him what he wants to hear. But in the end, I hope we can get to a point where we say which one of these goals is a SMART goal, which one is achievable. You know, how do I make it through the year knowing, and do I want the pressure? And so rather than going through the year just being pressured, trying to meet something that is not achievable, perhaps sit down and let's brainstorm. We know the world is on a pandemic. Is there an insurance? Is there something? Is there some way we could, look at what America is doing? Look at what, how can Canada give each of their people $2,000? What are they doing? Or with all their loans? Or we have this plan in our head and we're the boss, and so we don't share it. Yeah, he may have given you the goals, but before the goals even came up, did he sit down and say, let's brainstorm and let's hear everybody's concerns and then come up with a set of goals, which will make sense? Or this is what we did last year. Our operating cost is this. So this is what we need. What do we need an extra person? Because if you don't plan, you don't know if you need an extra person. You don't know if you need a specific system. You don't know if you need, if you're supposed to be bringing in 200 loans. Who doing the administrative part of that whilst you're on the phone and getting the people and collecting the money, and will you need assistance? So this is the importance of planning. Okay, and writing it down and making sure that everybody is aware of what their what part they play or what they are supposed to do. Okay, so productivity can be applied at three different levels: the individual, the group, and the total organization. Word processing software, fax machines, and emails have made administrative assistants more productive by allowing them to generate more output during their workdays. The use of Teams has increased the productivity of many work groups at companies such as Coors, Brewing, and Athena Life. Southwest Airlines is a more productive organization overall than its rivals, such as American Airlines or US Airways, because Southwest cost per available seat mile is 30 to 60% lower than that of their competitors. So then again, your marketing department has a competitive legislation marketing plan, sorry, competitive landscape plan, marketing plan. And what this competitive plan is, they compare what is happening at different companies. So they normally say, okay, Royal Bank, CIBC, and Scotiabank are Canadian banks. What are they doing? And so that marketing person normally follows, any have sat down and they would have looked at the market as a whole. Let's put a product out there and let's make it competitive. Okay, it's no use putting a product out there that's not going to be competitive, and nobody's going to want it because the person right next door has, you know what I mean, a better plan. And then there's, if you say Southwest per available seat is 30%, people are going to go where it's cheaper. But somebody would have had to gather that information to be able to tell you this. If nobody would have gathered this, if there's no marketing department, unfortunately, you have to go and do this yourself. If you want to be productive, if you want to sit out there and offer something that will attract persons and make money, then you have to go and do the work and do the research yourself. If there's no help, or ask the company to hire somebody who will collect information that will tell you what's happening out there. Okay, because you need to know if Royal Bank is cheaper to do business with them, or it's cheaper to do business with CIBC. And if it is, why would I fly American Airlines or US Air if it's cheaper? American Airlines or US Air would have to be offering something else, and that would be customer service. If it's not always money, because people will say, yeah, it's cheaper to go on JetBlue, but my God, Bahamas Air never get crash. And so I rather wait the 3 or 4 hours to catch a Bahamas Air, because I sure, if they crash land in one of the islands or two, but they are known as one of the top airlines in the world because of their plane crash rate. Right? We know that's correct.
That is correct.
Okay, right.
You got
So
time to spare?
yeah, get there safely. Yeah. Okay. So productivity has become a major goal in virtually every organization. By productivity, we mean overall output of goods and services produced divided by the inputs needed to generate the output. Okay. And like I say, the simplest form is right there on how to calculate productivity. And again, we want to ensure that we are, again, giving quality time, not quantity time. And when we go to work, we just don't stay there for the longest, because gone are those days where people just say, okay, yeah, stay for the longest, and so that's the person who getting the promotion or next in line or doing most work. It does not work like that anymore. Okay. In recent years, American productivity, and again, American means Bahamian, because they say the sneeze and it comes up to the Bahamas. But I also was watching the Canadian news channel, and I was very surprised that Canada said, well, if America sneezes, Canada catches the cold. So I was very surprised. I said, if so many states or countries in the world are saying this, that's why America must be the most powerful nation on earth, because everybody feels that whatever happens in America will trickle down to them. Okay, so in recent years, American productivity, as calculated by the federal government, was stagnant and at times decreasing. The United States ranked 8th or 9th in terms of productivity for an industrialized nation. Accurate depiction of what is happening in the United States today. By all accounts, it appears that the US productivity is rising. America has once again regained the top spot among industrialized nations. Much of the rise, however, has been attributed to downsizing and work process engineering efforts in the early 1990s. Now, even with this pandemic, a lot of persons, a lot of institutions, you know, they had to go online, and a lot of people did not simply want the institution to move online because they were afraid that they would lose their job, that they would no longer be needed. And in fact, the older persons who need to be home, who are the most at risk, they were the ones who are not as computer savvy. So of course they felt that, well, right away, so some of them jumped on board, but for the most part, I had the experience where certain older persons made it seem like if we did not come into the office, no work would get done. Did y'all have that experience during the pandemic where we was in the middle of it and persons just found excuses why you had to be in the office even though half of the bombs was shut down? Anybody?
I'm not touching that.
It don't apply for me.
It doesn't apply
You
for
can't
us.
be afraid. Let me tell my girl, turn off this recording so you can speak freely. And we can take this to court. Your please don't take this recording to court. Tanishka, what about you?
I didn't really experience it because for the most part at my place of where I work, it's a lot of millennials. Like, so we didn't really experience that, you know?
Okay, so okay, very good. Yeah, so some people felt like, this would mean that they would no longer need them. And so a lot of people, stalled, and they said, oh, we can't get along, we can't do this. They came up with all sorts of reasons why, you know, um, they couldn't work from home. And then you have those people in the office that just like to watch everybody and say, all those people ain't gonna be doing no work, but my institution found that productivity was much higher, because we did not want them to feel like we were no longer relevant or they didn't need us or what have you. So almost everybody, we had a very fast response rate to our emails. Persons were normally responding and completing tasks and confirming that the task was completed. In my institution, I saw a big turnaround. I was very happy. They also supported efficiencies. Um, let's find a better way to do this. Let's find a less costly way. Like even with the pennies, um, a lot of people complained about, oh, the central bank wants to steal the copper from the pennies. That's why they were calling it and what have you. But I read in an article that it costs, I
7
does
million,
this make sense? It costs more to produce the penny than the actual value of the penny. Did you all know that?
I think they said what, seven? Okay, 7 million, eh?
To produce it. Oh, I didn't get an
Produce
exact
it.
amount, but it was like where a penny is worth 1 penny. It probably costs 2 pennies to produce or something like that. So it costs more to produce it. They were spending more than actual the value of it to actually produce it. Okay, and so again, that's an inefficiency, and so you want to ensure that your expense should never be more than your profit. If you're a new business and you're starting up, then of course you take like 3 years to break even. But if you've been around for 25 years, there should be 1 or 2 off years, but primarily you would not be able to sustain your business if for years you know you your cost is more than your profit. Okay, so it says by reducing inefficiencies, focusing heavily on quality, and introducing technological improvements, companies have maintained or even increased production, all while employing fewer workers. American companies also increase productivity by becoming more quality and customer oriented. And I also teach customer service, and we learned that it costs way more to keep a customer than to get one. And so you want to ensure that you retain good loyal customers, and you ensure that when they have a small problem that you satisfy it, because it could trickle into a very large problem and cost you a whole lot of money. So you want to be customer friendly, and you want to give quality service. Okay, in essence, having increased productivity makes the US economy stronger. All economic indicators typically revolve around how much US industries produce and sell, both at home and in the global village. Accordingly, when an industrialized nation such as the United States has a strong productivity base, it creates jobs, it enhances its production's dominance among industrialized nations, encourages job security for employees, and affords research and development efforts to continue finding ways to further productivity gains. Okay, so this is why it's important, and this is why we're talking about productivity, and this is why we want to measure it. Okay, because the more productive we are, the more demand will be for our product, or the more demand it'll be for our service. Okay, so if you go down and you say, I stand on Royal Bank line for 3 hours, however, you know, um, They apologize for the long wait. They explained to me it's because of the pandemic. They asked me for ways on how to, get the line going faster, or, what they could offer me. And so all of that helps. Okay. And so, sometimes we don't look at, the net effect, or the, like it says, it will help with encourages job security. It will help with creating jobs because more people will want your product. And that's where we are. Almost everybody now trying to figure out, how do I keep these people? We ain't even looking at creating jobs. How do I keep the staff members that I have right now, knowing that at the end of the year we will not meet our target? Or is there a, can we brainstorm and think about something new? Like, again, what would it take? Why would it make sense, like you say you work in collections, to call somebody who is unemployed on NIB? You know what I mean? And so perhaps focusing on the less, I hope you all have the marketing information in the system that tells you, okay, these people are police officers and what have you and whatever, and so they're working, so let's put our focus there and make sure that they pay. Because the people who can't pay, perhaps there could be an insurance, something. It's been done before to buy out the what you call it, the uncollected amount, so the institution can keep its staff, and strive whilst it's not collecting. There's a way, there's a corporate plan somewhere, and we just, have to sit down and think about it and find out. But I don't, calling unemployed people to pay when we know this affecting the world and they need food, like you say, and electricity. Yeah, we can't just run away and say, oh, I don't want to be in the collections department no more. No, that's your job. And so let's think outside the box. How do we make this happen? What are other countries doing? Because it's affecting the world. And so there should be some tips out there. Okay. So the best way to describe planning is to look at it in two parts: strategic and tactical. Strategic planning covers the entire organization. It includes establishing overall goals and positioning the organization's products and services against the competition. Walmart's strategy, for instance, is to build large stores in rural areas, offer an extensive selection of merchandise, provide the lowest prices, and then draw consumers from the many surrounding small towns. Okay, do we know what our strategy is? Do we know that the credit unions, this is what, our plan, and this is how we're going to do it? Kendrick, do you know this is how we're going to do it?
Yeah, I just was
Yeah.
exposed to something
Okay.
this week, and moving. Like I said, we're under new management, and we're getting some new products, new ideas, new concepts that we're being introduced to, and I'm looking forward to it actually.
Okay, very, very good. And again, a lot of times, sometimes organizations keep this information private. They don't share it with you, which makes no sense because you are a part of the organization and this affects you. But it's very good that they are sharing this with you. And so we want to ensure that we pay attention, and the information, if it's out there, we go and source it, and we put it to good use. Because a lot of times there's so much information out there and we just don't like to read, or we don't have time for that, or that above my pay grade, but we don't see the net effect until they tell us, well, Miss Bullet, we don't need you any longer. Okay? So before that happens, be proactive. So tactical planning covers the specific details on how overall goals are to be achieved. The Walmart store manager at Fayetteville, Arkansas, is engaged in tactical planning when developing a quarterly expense budget or making out weekly employee work schedules. For the most part, strategic planning is done by top level managers. A supervisor's time is more likely devoted to tactical planning. Both are important for an organization's success, but they are different in that one focuses on the big picture while the other emphasizes the specifics within the big picture. So, of course, we know as supervisors, we go through the training, we go through scheduling, we ensure that people get in on time. And so, how do planning times frames differ? Short term plans are less than 1 year in length. Immediate term plans cover from 1 to 5 years. Long-term plans cover a period of more than 5 years. A supervisor's planning horizon tends to emphasize the short term, preparing plans for the next month, week, or day. People in middle management, middle level managerial jobs, such as regional sales directors, typically focus on 1 to 5 year plans. And of course, we know when we go on the interviews, this is a very popular question. What is your long-term goals? What is your short-term goals? Okay, and so again, short-term will be 1 to 5 years. Long-term would be more than 5 years. And so there's a difference, and that's a question. And they, you know, a lot of persons ask you that to see if you actually know the difference between the two. You know. Okay, so how are plans and supervisory levels linked? Um, 3.12, we can look at 3.12 and we see the planning levels. We see the types of plans where strategic and at the bottom is tactical, then long-term, intermediate, and short-term at the end. Then we see the level top management, then upper middle management, and we go across and we see top management would be the president, the vice president, and the VPs. Middle management is a director of a region. Lower middle management is a district manager, and first line supervisors is a territory supervisor. Okay, and at various stages, they are responsible for the various planning and the various types. Okay. An increasing number of organizations are applying quality practices as a way to build a competitive advantage. And this is how can continuous improvement programs be a help in planning? As we discussed in the last chapter, to the degree that an organization can satisfy customers' need for quality, it can also differentiate itself from the competition and attract and hold a loyal customer base. Constant improvement in the quality and reliability of an organization's products and services can result in competitive advantages others cannot steal. Product innovation, for example, offer little opportunity for sustained competitive advantage. Why? Because usually they can be quickly copied by rivals. And is this true? Can it be quickly copied? When we had the 99 cents breakfast, it started off at one stall, and then a week later we had 199 cents breakfasts on every corner. Is that true?
Yes, I remember that.
That's true.
I remember.
Okay. Yeah, we remember. Okay. So what that book is saying that product in innovations. We've been eating corned beef and grits for years for $3, but somebody decided people don't always have $3, and I can scale back on the amount of corned beef or tuna and grits that I give, and I can sell it for $1, and that attract a lot of customers, and that made it very popular. So that was the innovation. However, like they say, that could be stolen right away, and people will, once they see you have a good eye, they say, I can do this too. So it was completely, it was copied right away. But in addition to continuous improvement programs, three other quality elements can be useful in planning, and this is benchmarking, iOS 9000 series, and Six Sigma. And we will briefly look at each one of them. So about benchmarking. So benchmarking is the search for the best practices among competitors or non-competitors that lead to superior performance. And with my example with benchmarking, it was years ago. I went to a venture capitalist. Anybody watch Shark Tank on the TV?
Yes, ma'am.
No, my.
Okay, and so you know what you do. You stand up in front of them and you sell your product. I had a business plan. I had to tell them about it, and I'd explain to them, convince them that they should lend me their money. And so as I stood there, I was very young, very afraid, and I did very, very bad. But I got the point across, and they said, you know what, you're young, and we want to help you, and we see the potential in you. But can you please benchmark your business? So I wrote that down. So they was like, no, tell us right now, who would you compare your business to? And I said, can you elaborate? And they said, okay, so will your business at the, when you make it big, because we do believe you'll make it big, will your business be a Cable Bahamas? Will it be a Walmart? Will it be a bamboo chicken shack? You know? So they asked me to compare it. What level, of business do I think I would be able to generate? Or the scale or how large your business would be. So they say, so compare your business to, Rubis or Esso or, and I said, okay, once I compare it to that, what should I do? He said, then find out which rate they borrow at. And that's how we will determine if we give you equity, debt, or they said equity, debt, or something else. They said they would give me, or a grant, right? Equity, debt, or a grant. So I said, oh, okay. So I am to go out into the community because this is a new startup niche business and find out, compare it to um another business, and then you'll lend me money based on the rate that they borrow money at. He said yes, because right now, if you walk into the bank and you try and get a small business loan, you would be borrowing at 10 or 12%. But if you could, convince us that this is the type of business or the market share you will have, then we will benchmark it and we'll give you a rate near to what Esso or Rubus or Kelly is borrowed money at, which was a very much lower rate. Okay, so that was my example of benchmarking. And then it's the iOS 9000 series. And this is a standard designed by the International Organization for Standardization that reflect a process where independent auditors attest that a company's factory, laboratory, or office has met quality management standards. And let's just think about where in NASA would we want to ensure where somebody is saying, I sell this product and this is of quality, and we want to ensure um, that this is actually what they say they're selling. What industry can anybody think about it? No? Okay, so the fresh market, they say they sell organic products, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how do we know?
They should have the
I guess
mark on
we
it. Eh?
just, but we still don't know based on that.
Yeah,
They
but
could just place the mark. They could just put it there.
Didn't the
right,
government put? Didn't
so
it?
much fraud being done in the world, and we always think it's the small man, but it's the big man too, who, the pandemic hit, and it used to cost him so much money to do business. Now it costs him double. So how do we can confirm that when we walk in Solomon's and we purchase this apple or this orange and it's truly organic?
We really can.
Okay, this is how, by the iOS standard. And so this standardization is worldwide and world renowned. And so if there's any problems, we call them on the phone and we say, listen, Solomon's, saying that this is organic and we're not sure. And I'm sure before it even gets to that point, Solomon's has some agreement or with them where they will confirm that they would have already been through the testing of all of their products, and they can actually confirm that it is truly organic.
So, Ms.
Okay,
Fuller,
so
question.
go ahead.
Didn't the government introduce a quality standard board that would have been the previous administration?
There's a consumer protection agency as well.
But we can't rely on them.
But it's there, and I'm certain that they are in connection with all of these international standards. This iOS series, because this is we even have an iOS standard in compliance. Okay, so I'm certain that they they verify and they confirm that Solomon's just they're selling stuff and saying it organic and selling it for a high price. Whereas you would pay $2 for apple, when you go in there, you pay $6. So they confirm that the standard is actually met and that it is truly organic. Okay? Okay. So Six Sigma, a philosophy and measurement process that attempts to design in quality as a product is being made. So it helps improve like a current process or streamline quality control by removing errors. So it uses statistical models to test specific quality. Um, I, 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 I don't have an example of that, but it's really popular philosophy. It's online and you could perhaps read about it. But again, we are talking about continuous improvement programs and all of these various types of improvement programs that help you to, meet standard or come up to standard. Okay? Standing plans. Anybody familiar with standing plans? We all should be familiar with standing plans. Right? Kendrick, you say you read some of this? Standing plans. A plan that can be used over and over again by managers faced with recurring situations. So, of course, we know about policies. Okay? And policies are broad guidelines for supervisory action. And again, the policies are our beliefs, our values, what we do. Okay? Then, of course, we have procedures, which is a standardized way of reporting, of responding to repetitive problems. Okay? And so policy is what we do, procedure is how we do it. Okay? And so most institutions, we talked earlier about formalized planning. We don't want supervisors to have all their plans in their heads. We want them to share it with their team members so their team members know how to act. And sometimes it's as simple as that. My supervisor didn't share it with me, so I just don't know what I am supposed to do. I come up to work and I do what I was told to do every day, and I don't do anything differently. So just how we don't want them to hold their plans in their heads, we also, so everybody will not be using judgment and doing things properly. There are policies and procedures, and these are very, very important because every year, or depending on how your institution is risk rated, whether it's low, medium, or high, there's an audit or there's your supervisor checking and doing reviews, or there's an internal control department checking to make sure that you are following the policy and procedure. And so what they do is they ask you for your policy for your department, and if you don't have one, that's a very big problem because first of all, they don't know what to test. And so in the absence of a policy, what they have to do is come and ask the manager, please walk me through the process. And once the manager would have walked them through the process, they would document that. And the first audit note that the manager would get is for not having that policy and procedure in place. Because that simply means that that process is in our head. And more than likely, that's going to cause a conflict because some people are going to interpret it differently. Some people are going to use their own judgment. They're going to do various things differently. So you want to ensure that your policy and your procedure is in writing and that you would have trained your staff on your policy and procedure, what it work, how it works, what it means, how do you do something. You walk them through that, and after you would have trained them, you leave them for a while to carry on, and then you check back in about 3 months and you check sustainability. For the last 3 months, the procedure says that you must get a second signature. Have they been getting a second signature? Yes? Okay, they're following the procedure. Okay, they're following the policy. So you want to ensure that everything is documented and it's a standardized way. It's not Miss Bullet do it one way, Margaret do it another way, and Tanishka decide how she feels the day to do it. Okay, and so all of this helps because you will find out that when audit comes in, if you get too many audit notes, then of course somebody either goes home, they ask to look at the CVs and they say, this resume does not have sufficient experience. This one doesn't have sufficient education. And so you need to hire somebody else, or you must make this person go to school. Okay, so you want to ensure if you're the supervisor, you look at the CVs before audit comes in and you show that you have sufficient educational level and you have sufficient experience in that department, and you will find that all these things help you to perform efficiently. Okay, Then there are rules. Rules are an explicit statement that tells employees what they ought or ought not to do. And normally there's a handbook, an employee handbook that goes around that tells you all the rules. They tell you, you know, what they consider lateness, and if you're absent, what to do, who you should call, and what is fair, and the dress code, and what have you. So everybody should know what the policy states, what the procedure states, and what the rules are for the organization. So you should have a policy and procedure. You should have a manual for your department. Then you should have a code of conduct or an employee handbook that just gives you some of the rules. Okay, and we are seeing that in our organizations. I know it's Roseanne who said no, she doesn't have those, but again, if you work in the financial services sector, that information is out there. And again, sometimes it's many pages. Oh, the book too thick, I don't like to read. These things help you. If you show up to somebody's job every day, you cannot show up with your own judgment. Okay, you have to at least know what their vision, mission, and goals are, what their policies and procedures state, and how they expect you to do things. Okay, okay, be good. You all are very, very quiet. So what I want to do now is comprehension checklist 3.1. Can everybody take out a piece of paper? And this primarily is how your take-home quiz will be set up with the multiple choice questions. Can you just take out a piece of paper and then answer from 1 to 4, comprehension check 3.1? Be good. So it's 7:30. At 7:40, we're gonna share the answers. Okay, everybody got a piece of paper? No response.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, next week, cameras on.
Oh, man.
Next week, cameras on. Because I don't know if you're out there, I don't know if you're asleep. And make sure your mic's working as well, please, so you can respond. Because remember, there's 10% for participation.
My mic. Oh, God.
Okay, everybody see comprehension check 3 to 1 on page 67. Tanisha, do you have your book?
Got it.
You have your book?
You say page 67, right?
Correct.
Uh-huh.
You see the 4 questions?
Yes.
Okay. Tanisha, you have your book?
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Okay. Good. You see page 67 is.
Are we doing these 4
Okay,
now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Tanya, how are you
Good
today?
night.
I'm fine.
Okay, good. You good with the questions that you have to answer?
I'm just signing on. I'm not sure what we're doing.
Okay, be on page 67, and there are 4 questions,
Mhm.
and we are answering those 4 questions.
Okay, no problem.
Mhm.
Let me turn to that. Okay, so we'll just discuss the answers once everybody's finished, or?
Yeah, so we'll discuss them at 7:40 to 7:34.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so let's just discuss it. And again, like I said, this will take the form of your take-home homework, which would normally be a cruise. Sorry, a quiz, not a cruise. I don't know why I have a cruise on my mind. Yeah, I'm
get-
thinking vacation.
Gotta get the
Okay,
vaccination.
so okay. No, I ready for that. I ready for the cruise, but not for the vaccination. Okay, so let's hear for some from persons who we haven't heard from tonight. Fabian, go do top number one for us, please. Is Fabian there?
Night.
Good night.
Do you want me to just say the answer or you need me to read it?
Yeah, you could read it and then say the answer, please.
Planning that covers the entire organization establishing
I can't hear you.
planning that covers.
Yeah.
Someone else mic is on. Can she turn it off, please?
Okay, could you mute your mics, please, if you're not speaking?
Planning that covers the entire organization and establishing the overall goal is called tactical planning.
We sure? Anybody else have a different answer?
It's either that or
It's
strategic
strategic.
planning.
Right.
Yeah, strategic.
Right. Yeah.
Strategic.
Okay, good. Good. Okay. Tanishka, do you want to do number two?
Don't come now.
Okay. And a company searches for the best practices among competitors. This is called B benchmarking.
Okay, yes, very good. Very good. Did anybody else have another answer?
No.
No? Okay, let's see. Blakely, did you get to number three as yet? Okay. Daniel, I know you just joined. Were you able to look at it? No, I guess not. Okay, Roseanne, then you do number three for us.
The philosophy and measurement process that attempts to design and quality is called a Six Sigma.
Okay, right. Very good. Okay, and then Denise, you do number four.
A broad guideline that defines limits within which supervisor must stay is called a C policy.
Okay, right, good. So again, very good. So everybody seems to be in line and on track. And again, most of the time it's definition based. So you need to know the definitions and then, some of the little stories to go with it so you can give an explanation. But for most part, what you're gonna get for homework, and again, you'll have the book, so it's fine. But if you I had a quiz, you would have a quiz similar to this with the 25 question. It is an actual quiz, but I'm giving it to you to take home and you'll produce it next week. But when we get to the midterm, there will be no books. And so you will see from the quiz, you'll have some multiple choice and you'll have some short answer, and then you'll have one essay. Okay, and I believe the essay is going to come from chapter 12, so we'll talk about that when we get there. Okay, but you have some weeks away from the midterm, but just when you get in chapter 12, keep your eyes open because the essay, like I say, it's going to come from there, and it'll probably be worth like 20 points.
Okay, did I hear essay for midterm?
Yes, sir. And hopefully it's just one. Sometimes the final exam is 2 essays and no multiple choice, or 2, 3 essays sometimes.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
You sound so excited, Denise. So
Yes,
excited to do
I
it.
know you could hear it.
I speak for everybody. I think I can say suck.
Oh, royally.
Yeah, but y'all don't want, remember now, the whole point of this is we want to retain this and then we want to comprehend. We don't want just sickness full of class, fall asleep, and check the box and we pass it. When we leave from here, we go leave learning something,
You could give me
right? Something will
100
be in our
multiple
memory.
choice.
No, multiple choices. Sometimes you could remember them out your head.
But
You could do any, many, miny, mo. We want comprehension.
oh
Oh my
Okay?
man,
God.
Y'all can do it, man. This is a good group. You're just afraid to
Wow.
speak up. But I know when we turn on our mics on our videos next week, all of this will diminish. Everybody will be talking and we will be happy. Correct? Okay, good. I can hear the excitement in your voices. Okay, good. Okay, so let's just wrap up chapter 3. We're almost there. Programs. Mike Arnold got the news. On Monday morning. At a meeting on Monday morning, his company, American Airlines, was going to lay off thousands of employees. As the baggage handling supervisor for American Dallas Hub, he was told to put together a reorganization plan that would allow his department to operate effectively with as many as 20% fewer workers. What Mike developed was a program, a single-use set of plans for a specific major undertaken within the organization's overall goals. It includes a list of the most expandable employees, plans for new equipment, plans for redesigning the handling area, and suggested options for jobs that could be potentially combined. So you see what the first thing it said? It included a list of the most expandable employees. You want to ensure that you are one of those employees. Okay, so no matter the situation, I know sometimes we are in very bad situations. My brother-in-law went back to work at the Atlantis. He had a department of 25. He now has a department of 5, and he works in inventory. But what he is seeing is that the department of 5 is expected to do the department of 25, but people are just saying, you have to be happy that you have a job, right? Yes, we are in the valley, but please don't kill the people. Please don't kill the 5 people that showing up to work and making them feel like they have to carry the entire organization, because really organizations should have had plans in place for crises, and they do have business continuity plans. They do have business impact analysis. Okay, so they need to perhaps share that with the organization, share that with the staff, and say, if the business is impacted, this is what we do. And I'm sure nowhere it is written that you overwhelm the condensed amount of staff members that you have. Okay, so supervisors there's a lot of pressure, and we are thankful and grateful for the ones of us that are back to work. But please don't expect that, you know, um, I can do 10, a 10-man job in one person. Now, it calls for a little bit of organization from the person's part, but the supervisor should be able to say, okay, I understand that I put extra pressure on this bullet, and there used to be 20 of us. Now it's only 5. And so I will be more lenient, you know? And so help everybody has a part to play. It can't be the organization applying pressure and the person being thankful that they have a job. There has to be a balance somewhere where, both know that they have a responsibility to be fair. Okay? So budgets. A numerical plan that expresses anticipated results in dollar terms for a specific period, used as a planning guide as well as a control device. And then scheduling, detailed planning of activities to be done, the order in which they are to be done, and who is to do each activity, and when the activities are to be completed. And again, what I've seen that when you work with teams, the most easiest way is to have it on a rotational basis. If you go to lunch today at 11, tomorrow somebody else goes at 12, whatever, the following week you will go at 12 or whatever. If you have people that agree that, hey, I'll always go at 12, I'll always go at 1, then find out what their reasoning is, and it's legitimate, and if they want to share that information with you, and if you could accommodate that, the persons who have to pick up the school, or the persons who have a early morning lunch, or who will function better at a particular time of the day, it's nothing for you to work with them if it does not affect the entire department drastically. At one point, I had somebody who was a who was Muslim. They pray 6 times a day, and he would have to go into the kitchen and lay on, now Royal Bank said we cannot discriminate against religion. So he had to take, he couldn't just go in for a 5 minute prayer. He had to split, pieces of his lunch hour. But we did work with him, because sometimes you are hungry and you do need a break. But he also had to pray, those 6 times. And I think he did 3 in the day and 3 at night. And so we did give, the smokers was asking for a 15-minute break. So so Royal Bank implemented 2 15-minute breaks plus your lunch hour. And so why the poorer people couldn't get, the same thing. So that worked for him, but it did cause a problem. And then I also had 7 day Adventists, and now during this time, that falls very early, and on a Friday when it's government payday, we always had that the 7 day Adventist people saying, it's my Sabbath, we have to go. So we tried to keep them, back office versus on the teller line, because it is difficult. If you don't balance, you can't just leave the money and say, well, I'm balanced, but it's my Sabbath, I have to go. But again, we were considerate when we scheduled, we tried to tell them, work your lunch hour on a Friday, especially when it's not what is it, daylight savings time, so you would get out on time. So there are solutions out there. Like I said, you just have to think, and you have to care, because a lot of times I say, well, I'm not a Muslim, it's a Christian nation, so I don't care about you praying, or I'm not a 7 day, so I don't understand, so you work in a very versatile environment. You have to help and consider everybody. Everybody won't have the same likes and beliefs. So you have to be fair when it comes to that. Okay, and a good chart that helps you you know document all of this is a bar chart with time on the horizontal axis and activities to be scheduled on the vertical axis. So this, if you look at 3.5, that's a Gantt chart where it shows the month on the horizontal axis and the activities to be scheduled. And so those little blocks in the middle tell you, like, this is the first half of the first week within the month. There are 4 weeks in the month, and um, the person was supposed to say copy, edit a manuscript, or design a simple page, and at which point of the month they should start. And the filling in shows you the progress that that person has made. And I have used this in, for my own personal use, as well as within my departments, to show persons exactly where they are and how much further they have to go. And to me, it was very helpful. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna turn over the page, and we're gonna go on and talk about goal setting, which we talked about briefly in the beginning. And again, all of this ties into, from the strategic goals of the organization, how do you set your own SMART goals? So again, a lot of times, it's trickle down from the executive teams or the people who are responsible in HR to setting these goals. But again, sometimes I feel that they just give you the outline. And what I found very helpful when I was at Royal Bank was that they allowed us, they sent us 3 goals, because strategically they knew the cost, they know what operational issues they faced and what they needed. And then they said, now you come up with the other 2 goals. We normally had like 5 goals for the year. So goal setting is a system by which employees jointly determine specific performance goals for their supervisors. Progress towards goals is periodically reviewed, and rewards are allocated on the basis of this process. So again, normally goal setting should come out in January. And to me, goal setting comes all the way back from the Bible times. You know, if most of you are believers, you should know Habakkuk 2, verse 2 says, write the vision. Where there's no vision, the people perish, right? And so at this point now, most of us should have already written our vision for the year, our own personal vision, right? And then we could schedule to say, when are we gonna, by a certain date, I want to lose this amount of pounds. By a certain date, I want to be here spiritually, or by a certain date, I want to have some money saved. Are we writing our visions? Are we putting it down? Because the Bible does say make it clear and write it. Are we doing that? Kendrick, you still need mic on. You have done. Come on. I begging for answer. I begging for feedback. Which chapter is talking feedback? We soon get that.
Write the
Yeah.
vision and
Are we doing
make
that?
it plain upon the tablets.
Yes.
For me, at this particular point, I have some goals that are in mind. One of the goals was to actually finish this year, finish the CIB with Biff. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. So now I
But
had
the
to
year
make
just start. Why are you saying that? The year just start.
yeah, just start. But for me to, oh, come on, Miss Bullet, if I have to do that, I get 5 more classes, 2 summer semesters, and a fall semester. That's
Okay.
crazy at this point.
Right. It is crazy. It is too much. But I still think you should write it, and not necessarily, you don't have to finish everything this year,
Yeah, I understand
but
that.
just that you have it. And then I listened to Steve Harvey, because he also said, we have not because we ask not, right? And so write these things down. The Lord knows the desires of your heart. Put it somewhere that you could see it. I put it on my cell phone so it flashes to me once a week. I see the vision and it reminds me of
Yeah.
what I am supposed to accomplish. And while I was home during this pandemic, listen to me, almost everything on my vision board I accomplished. And I last year I was so proud of myself. A lot of people had a very tough year last year. Last year was one of the best years of my life. Okay, simply because I paid attention. I had more time to focus on me and this. I said I always wanted to do this. I always wanted to do that. I wrote down everything, and it continuously flashed. And I would say 80% of my vision that I wrote, I accomplished. And I attribute that to writing it, because most of the times I said it in my head, and I used to keep notes in my phone, and I would only go to those notes probably once a month. But I put it as an alarm once a week. And then I say, oh my God, you didn't do this. You didn't do that. Remember this. Remember that. Okay? So where there's no vision, people perish.
I
Okay?
understand.
So I beg all of you to take some time, get a piece of paper, and write down some goal, mentally, spiritually, financially, what else as physically, that you want to accomplish. Just write one thing and put it somewhere that you could see it, that gives you a constant reminder. And then ask your children to do it. Okay? And essentially that's the same thing with goal writing, or goal setting is. Is there anybody here other than Kendrick that write a vision? Anybody?
I did one before.
Okay.
I did
Did
a
you?
board, and on my vision board, I had body goals, health goals, like a lifestyle change. I also had home financial goals. So that was my vision board in a nutshell.
Okay. And did it work? Are you accomplishing the things that you said? Or do you have a constant reminder?
I Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I wrote it down, but it's more like mental. So I would remember it. So like I know I achieved the lifestyle change because I would exercise regularly and eat better. So and then financially, it helped, but things comes up. So yeah, that's
Right, right.
inevitable.
And so, when the things came up, when the pandemic came, I didn't feel bad about it. When the pandemic came, I just set that alarm. And then I even had, I needed to read some sections of the Bible. And I kept saying that, kept seeing that. And I say, my God, it's October and you don't
Mm-hmm.
even read yet. And so put it somewhere that you have a constant reminder. And to me, that's what work with me. But if you tell
Yeah.
yourself, oh, I could keep this in my head, or I could put this on a paper, and essentially, I know y'all may say, Miss Bullet, which this is not church, right? But essentially, this is what happens in our organizations. Kendrick is about to meet with his supervisor now to discuss his goals and to make sure that they make sense. That's the first thing, that they are smart goals. But then after they come out of that meeting, what Kendrick will do? Tuck that little paper in the drawer and don't look at that until December. That's what happens to most of us. We
Mhm.
never ever look at it again until, especially when mine was tied to my bonus, right? So when November hit, I used to be
What's
like,
that
okay,
again?
how much more
Bonus?
sales? Sorry?
You said bonus?
Yeah, mine was tied to a bonus. Yeah. So if on the sales part, they used to say you have to have 10 credit cards, you have to open up 5 accounts or something like that. So November, of every year, I used to be like, oh, I have one credit card. I used to start calling up people, hey, you need a credit card, blah, blah, blah. Or let me open up this account for you, or what have you, you know? And so if we don't have that, the day is very busy. You get overwhelmed, you forget, and you already have a goal that may not be achievable. So when you don't hide that paper, you probably don't even want to look back at that again. So write it, make it plain, make it visible. Put it somewhere that there's a constant reminder. Because a lot of supervisors in my day, what I saw was they let you work the entire year and they sip it. Oh, Miss Bullet don't make no sense. She ain't gonna make it. I might have to fire her. And then employees become shocked, you know. And so everybody has a responsibility. If that constant reminder, just how they is put the vision and mission throughout the organization, throughout the department, you should have your goals somewhere where it's visible to give you that reminder. Quarterly, your supervisors should come tell you, hey, you're meeting the mark. There should be no surprises when you get to your performance appraisal. You should know where you are with your goals. You should know what you have to do to meet them. And definitely by June, there should be some coaching and some, hey, you don't meet it yet. We need to do this, or we need to do that, or what have you. This is what needs to happen. But definitely nobody is supposed to show up and be surprised that they did not meet their goal. But again, it comes from planning, it comes from it being visual and you being able to see what you are supposed to do. And then sometimes along the way, the supervisor, or if you don't go for feedback, just you are supposed to say, hey, I need some help. It is half year and there's no way I haven't had the opportunity to go cross train. One of my goals this year was to cross train, and I haven't had the opportunity to cross train because this person was absent. This person went on maternity leave. Life like really happens. We were short staff, and then you have to get your supervisor to commit. Do I still have to fulfill these goals, or will we look at what has happened within the organization and change the goals? Or are we sticking in 2020? If people said, no, we can't change the goal, even though there's a pandemic, you still have to bring in the most amount of sales that we agreed to in January, then you have to, I guess, go in prayer because there's no other way. I don't know how you would have been able to do that. Okay? So let's turn to chapter 12 and let's talk about the performance appraisal. Okay, so after we would have planned, we would have set goals. Persons have SMART goals. They are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic. I missed something and timely. You want to review all of this and you want to appraise what they would have done. So, a performance appraisal is a review of the past performance that emphasizes positive accomplishments as well as deficiencies, a means of helping employees improve future performance. And so, again, each year, persons should have a performance appraisal, but again, quarterly. Even if you just go and say, because of course, we always have time to go and tell a bad story. or give sad news. Or when I was a supervisor, we used to show up, or when I was in management, we used to show up and say, here we go for the doom and gloom report. You want to make sure that every time you meet with your employees, it's not a doom and gloom report. So just how you can pull them aside to say, just the doom and gloom report, you could pull them aside and say, good job, you're on the right track. This is what you need to satisfy or exceed this goal and what have you. So you could give those little encouraging levels. So just say, I am proud of you, and thank them, considering that it's a pandemic and you have to wear a mask, and that's an horrendous process. You have to stay 6 feet apart and the people still coming up in your face, but everybody has showed up to work and you know pull the extra weight. And so thank you. You want to give a full process where you walk them through um, what they need to achieve the goals. You want to make sure that they have the right systems in place, or they have the tools that is required to do their jobs. And a lot of times that's a major issue, where we don't have the tools and we also don't have the time. And so I know we had that experience when a lot of AML training came. That's anti-money laundering training for you all that don't work in the financial service industry, which was made mandatory. It was made mandatory, but there was no time in the day to go and do this training, and it was just a check the box process. So Royal Bank implemented. You have 2 hours each week to step away from, especially if you were client facing, and spend some time on your training, and so you can make sure you retain the information that you would have learned. And so you want to give performance feedback. You want to let them know, you want to set expectations, you want to let them know how to achieve it, you want to give them tips, you want to work with them along the way. There is performance feedback, which is information that lets an employee know how well he or she is performing on a job. It may be intrinsic or extrinsic, and there's a difference in, because there's intrinsic and extrinsic cost. And if people learn about the difference between the two, they'll see. So intrinsic feedback is self-generated feedback or performance feedback, and extrinsic feedback is provided by the employee from out provided to an employee by an outside source. So if you support the finance department, if you support HR, if you are the concierge person or the front desk person, but you are the front desk person from each of these departments, so they will give some feedback on how you perform and what you do. Most companies has implemented a self-assessment, and this is very helpful because for the most part, people think that they are great. Most people think that they are great. Most people don't say they are the issue or they are the problem. It's normally the institution or somebody caused them to do something. So in these self-assessments, you would have given them their goals in January. You would have spoken to them quarterly, informally, where you just congratulate them or you say, pull your socks up in this area. And then halfway through the year, you tell them, hey, you have accomplished 50 or 60% of your mandate. There is 50 more to go, and this is what you need to do, and these are the solutions, these are the tips. Or you say, and that's a June, and then when December comes, nobody should know that I was only at 20% and I needed to pull myself up in December. That's too late, because you were already put in your mind what this person is going to fail, and nobody should be set up to fail. Okay, and like I said, whenever there's a team, you have high, medium, and low performance. You need to find out what the value is of that person who is that low performer in your group, and bring out the best in them. You'll be very surprised. It doesn't have to be work related. It could be some other, like I say, our low performer, when it was a government payday, could not, they needed their lunch hour. But none of us who was interested in serving the line and keeping it moving could go stand on bamboo shack line. Our low performer could stand on bamboo shack line and bring us our lunch, and we only had 15 minutes to eat. We ate our bamboo shack and we was back on the line. And at the end of the day, we was like, thank you. Thank you. right? And so where she would have gotten a low rating for sales and the teller number, she got the highest rating for support, right? So, like I say, everybody has value, and the whole thing is that the team needs support. Perhaps that person could file the best. It's very meticulous and takes very long, but the files are in place. And again, my person got the highest rating for filing. Okay. And when you do these appraisals and you're giving feedback, like I said, the best, you set the goals, everybody is clear. They know you gave them some tips on how to achieve the goals. And then when it comes to the end of the year, you give them, okay, you complete your assessment as a supervisor and you self assess yourself and give me your remarks. And sometimes people are honest and they say, oh, well, I fell down here and I could have done better there, or I did this. And they're honest. And so you're in agreement. Some people just say, I'm the best at everything, and I could do better here or there, or I want some help. Some people are genuine. So what you do once you would have read that self-assessment is you want to sandwich that person. You want to put the bread on top. Very good job this year. You did A, B, and C. In the middle, this is just the meat. You could put your socks up here. Perhaps, and you want to use the right verbiage. Versus when you completely fail in this area. No, I see some opportunities in this area. It just sounds better. It makes the person feel like you care, and there's truly an opportunity. So not that you fail, but I see some opportunities for growth. And this is what you do. So you want to ensure that you use the right language, that the people are receptive, because you don't want that person to shut down and say, Miss Bullet don't like me. And no matter what I say or do, she don't like me anyway. I've had 4 supervisors over the course of 16 years. I had 2 that love me to death. They godparents to my children. We go to church together. We hang out on the weekends. I have 2 that hate my guts. If you see them, they'll say, oh my God, you're in Miss Bullet class. You bound to fail. They hate me. Okay? But I always respected the position. And I say, okay, I respect the position, I respect my job. Sometimes you in the valley, and then, like I say, sometimes you on the mountain. And so when I was in the valley, I just was extra cautious. I self-assessed myself, and I said, these are the areas that I feel that I need growth, and this is what I'm going to commit to doing. I am going to join this class, or do this, or go to the seminar, or do this or that. And so know where you are. Know whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. The season will always change, and you will not always be on top. But you must always remain diplomatic, and you must always be respectful. And if you are, um, rating or praising your staff, please. Now, I used to say, oh Lord, this is a tough one. So let me make sure I calm and collective and remove self. And please be as fair. You want to ensure that you don't say, oh, I prefer the men over the women. Or this one, I can't deal with this Muslim because I'm a Muslim. And he's praying 6 times a day. How much time would it find he's take up just praying? You have to take all of those, what should I say? What do you call them? Differences, or gender, origin. I know one particular priest. She was a priest, but she was the manager of branch, and there were homosexuals, in the branch. And listen to me, there was nothing they could do. They was the best sellers, but because they were homosexuals, and 2 of them got fired, and when she was about to fire the third one, just simply she found a reason because she thought it was an abomination. And so you want to make sure that you don't bring your personal values and goals, because you work in a very versatile environment and there are people from all different factors. So don't come right up front, this person gay, so I don't like them, and so this is how they can be rated. Or but we don't really have the race problem here. But if you work internationally, be aware, and don't make comments about gender, don't make comments about age. You want to be as neutral as possible and take away your personal feelings from these people appraisals and making them feel like they showed up to work every day and they did nothing. You want to be as neutral as possible and only um focus on evaluating, their traits. Uh, which is whether they're dependable, whether they are confident, whether they're aggressive or loyal or cooperative, stuff like that. You want to stay on the surface. Because in your house, you're raising your children. Do they follow the policy and procedure? You don't have to worry about how they look. The clothes ain't too tight because, in my day, I actually had to send home my boys because the boys' clothes was too tight at work versus the girl because I had one or two homosexual boys and their clothes was too tight. I had to send them home because people complained that if a woman was wearing this, she would have been home, so he needed to go home, and I had to ask him to go home. But again, you have to do that in a very diplomatic way. Okay? Should I put that on his performance appraisal? No, it was a one-off situation where, I had to send him home to change because what he had on was inappropriate. So you want to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity. This is not your own personal company. It is not your house. You follow the guidelines of the company that says do not discriminate, and you rate these people as neutrally as you can. Are they doing the work? Nobody on the appraisal say if I like them or how they make me feel. Okay, and then again, you would want to be rated the same way. Okay, in fairness. Okay, so performance appraisal methods could come in a written essay. Miss Bullet has been blah 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 forever, wherever, describing the strengths and weaknesses and the performance and the potential and suggestions for improvements. Or we could talk about give a checklist of different behaviors or what we expect them to display. There should be any type of correction that needs to be done. This person should be fully aware that this behavior would have been out of order or you didn't have a reason for this or that. And like I said, the sandwich approach, the bread on the top, where you tell them how great they are. In the middle is the meat, where you say, you've been excessively late, but I understand you was out of a car and thank you for coming and explaining to us why you were late, but I still, want you to know that even we have a time frame to abide by and everybody must be here at a certain date. I do understand you was out of a car, but thank God the car is up and running now, so we expect you to curb this lateness in the next semester. Or you, like I said, in one class you were going through a divorce, and so you asked for the 3 o'clock hour to pick up your children, and I'm happy that we're able to work with you, and so hopefully your career, your personal life gets better this year, and so we don't have to overextend, but and again, you don't want to write this. You just want to say that the person was excessively late but gave a valid reason. So as the manager ahead of you could see that you documented it but didn't, you just spoke of the reason privately, because everything don't need to be in writing and people don't need to come behind and know that Ms. Bullet was going through a divorce in March of 2019, So you want to be careful with that because all of us, life happens to all of us and all of us go through different things. There are different errors in reports that the book talks about. It talks about a similarity error where rating others in a way that gives special consideration to qualities that appraisers perceive in themselves. Again, oh, I always hear at 7 a.m. and Miss Bullet here at 7 a.m. She's the one, she's the best. No, that's an error. You want to make sure that you don't rate that person based on that. Or the halo error, a tendency to rate an individual high or low on all factors as a result of an impression of a high or low rating on some specific factor. Again, we have the high, medium, and low performers. And so this person is my high performer, they get exceeds. This person is my low performer, they get low. No, It don't work like that. Again, like I tell you, that person who couldn't stand on the bank line had the lowest teller rate for serving customers was able to go to bamboo shop, and she was able to serve the elderly line, which they implemented that nobody wanted to be on, but she was there because she wanted to talk to the elderly people and ask them how their day was and tell them where her family was from. She had the patience to do that. The rest of us, we didn't have time to talk about where our family from and how our day was because we had to get the line going. So she got rated higher in those areas. So you wanna ensure that you pull out the best in everybody. Um, there is it the leniency error where it overstates or understates performance, giving an individual a higher or lower appraisal than deserved. Some people, there are ratings that says at Royal Bank there was superior, exceeds, met, and did not meet. Nobody ever got superior. Nobody ever got superior. And there was a cruise that you got each year for support. If you got the highest rating support, if you got the highest rating sales, and there was another category I can't recall, but there was three people who were able to get the cruise within your department, and nobody ever got superior. And so one of my colleagues, she won the cruise, and she still only got outstanding grade. And we was like, but she won the cruise. So that means she had to do something great, but they did not give her superior. So to me, superior was tied to an amount, and so was outstanding. And so if you did a very good job, across the board, you always saw that Royal Bank would give you outstanding and they would give you the prize. They didn't want to give you outstanding, the prize, and the big lump sum. So outstanding, let's say you probably got $5,000 for bonus. With superior, you would have gotten $10,000 for bonus. So of course they didn't want to give you that. So they had that, no matter what, you getting outstanding is the highest rate, even though there's another category. And even though this person, we did have some people who we had to let go, who did not pull the weight, who did not do what they were supposed to do, who just showed up and showed out, and still they got met when really they should have gotten not met. So for some reason in performance appraisals, you will see that people, shy away from those very high or very low ratings. Okay. And then again, this is what I think the essay is going to be on, and we'll talk about this. We're gonna go through this. So I need a reader now because Ms. Bullet tired of talking. My mouth hurts now from talking for 3 hours. So we want to talk about employee counseling, an emphasis on encouraging training and development efforts in a situation in which an employee unwillingness or inability to perform his or her job satisfactory is either voluntary or involuntary. Okay. Employee counseling, and this again is how you give feedback. You want to ensure that you use the right words. You want to say things like, we see an opportunity, not you do it wrong, or your number is the lowest, or what have you. There's an average that we expect you to meet. Can we help you? Is there any suggestions on how we can help you, attain that average? I see an opportunity if you go to school and further your education. Perhaps you may need to take English, perhaps you need a math class. Perhaps you just need a refresher because you have been out of college for many years. You want to speak life to the situations. You want to bring people down, and you want people feeling like, you do not support them. And especially if it's a person who already feels that you don't like them for some odd reason, because you favor, we talked about favoritism and the grapevine, and ensuring that, that one employee doesn't get the high rating and goes around and say, oh, I get the high rating, and other people, in your department, because y'all are not like-minded or y'all don't have the same interests, feel that you're not a confidential person and you will not help. You're supposed to help all. Okay? You don't go to work to socialize. You go to work to ensure that you carry out the policies and procedures and the mission and vision of your company, and that all feel included. And it's very difficult because we are human beings. And especially with women, where there's a group of women, there's always a difficulty. So we have to do our best to show, the right attitude, and always be approachable, and always even get the most difficult people in the organization to respect us and get the work done. Because I might not like Miss Bullet, and I had people say, Miss Bullet, I don't like you, but I can do my work because at the end of the year, I know you could be fair and I want that money. I say, okay, fine. Don't like me, continue on. Just do my work. I goal oriented. I set these goals. I want to do whatever possible to achieve them because at the end of the day, that's how I'll get my bonus or my promotion or what have you. So don't worry about liking me. Do the people work. Okay? So let's get a reader. Who is going to volunteer? Who's going to volunteer to read 311 on counseling?
I could read it. Let me just
Okay.
look the page 3.
Okay, very good.
Hold on.
Let's start from responding to performance problems on 310.
310.
Mhm.
Okay, start there. Okay. Whenever one of your employees exhibit work behaviors that are inconsistent with the work environment, for example, fighting, stealing, or unexcused absences, or is unable to perform his or her job satisfactorily, you must intervene. But before any intervention can begin, it is imperative for you to identify the problem. If you realize that the performance problem is ability related, your emphasis becomes one of encouraging training and development efforts. However, when the performance problem is desire related, whether the unwillingness to correct the problem is voluntary or involuntary, employee counseling is the next logical approach. So, what do you need to know about counseling employees? Although employee counseling processes differs, some fundamental steps should be followed when counseling an employee. Listen to what the employee has to say. You can't effectively counsel others unless you listen to what they have to say. Your action should be tailored to the needs, demands, and personality of your employee. These factors can be accurately assessed without active listening. When you sit down with your employee, demonstrate your willingness and desire to be helpful. Then listen to what he or she has to say. Also, listen to what is not being said. How is the employee framing the problem? What does the employee think is to blame? Are his or her emotion driving out rational thinking? Don't make judgments too quickly. Try to grasp the employee's perception of the situation without agreeing or disagreeing with that perception. At this point, it's not so important to determine whether the employee is right or wrong as it is to try to fully understand the problem from his or her point of view. Identify the problem. After you've listened to your employee's initial assessment of the situation, begin the search to identify the problem and its causes. What does the employee think is the problem? Who or what is the cause? How is this problem affecting the employee? What, if any, responsibility is your employee taking for the problem? You must remember, though you are attacking some behavior, not the employee. Clarify alternatives. Problems come with options. In most cases, a number of alternatives can correct the problem. These need to be explored and clarified. This is a point at which a participative approach can be particularly valuable because you may see and know things that escape the employee's perception. As a result, merging your insights and the employees can result in a greater number of quality options. Once alternatives are identified, they need to be evaluated. What are the strengths and weaknesses of each? Again, two heads are better than one. Your goal should be to have the employee weigh the pulses and pluses and minuses of each course of action. Come to a resolution. What's the best option for the employee? Remember, the best option for one employee is not necessarily the best option for another. The solution should reflect the unique characteristics of the employee. Ideally, both you and the employee will agree on the solution. You want to be sure the employee buys into the final choice, whether that final choice was made by you, by the employee, or jointly. A terrific solution that's not accepted by the employee is unlikely to result in any meaningful change. Agree on an action plan. Finally, the employee needs to develop a concrete plan of action for implementing the solution. What specifically is the employee going to do? When will he or she do it? What resources, if any, will be needed? It's usually a good idea to end a counseling session with the employee summarizing what has taken place and the specific actions he or she plans on taking. Establish a follow-up point at some specific date in the future for reassessing the employee's progress. If a formal meeting isn't needed, request a short memo for the employee updating you on his or her progress. This can be effective as a reminder to the employee that progress is expected and as a control device for you to access the employee's progress. Is your action ethical? What business do you have delving into an employee's personal life? That's a valid question and requires us to look at the ethics of counseling. Employees bring a multitude of problems and frustration from their personal lives to their job. They have difficulty finding quality daycare for infants. A teenage child is expelled from high school. They have fights with their spouses. A family member suffers a nervous breakdown. They get behind in their bills and they are harassed by creditors. A close friend is seriously hurt in an automobile accident. A parent is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. It may seem wise to keep your nose out of employees' personal lives, but that is often unreasonable. Why? Because there is no clear demarcation that separates personal and work lives. Consider the following scenario involving one of your employees. Denise, Denise's son was arrested last night for possession of drugs. She spent most of the night with police and lawyers. Today at work, she is tired and psychologically distant. She has trouble concentrating. Her mind is not on her job. It's naive to believe that employees can somewhat leave their personal problems at the door when they come to work each morning. Do employees have a right to privacy? Absolutely. However, when personal problems interfere with work performance, you should not consider it beyond your jurisdiction to inquire about the problem. Offer yourself as an open ear and genuinely seek to help with the problem. If your offer is rejected, don't push. If the employee understands how his or her personal problem is affecting work performance, and you make clear what the consequences will be if the work performance doesn't improve, you've reached the ethical limit of your involvement. If the employee is protective of his or her personal life, your rights as a supervisor doesn't extend to helping solve his or her personal problems. However, do you have the right and the obligation to make sure employees understand that if personal problems interfere with their work, they need to solve those personal problems and you're there to help if asked.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Tanisha. Okay, so primarily that is what your essay is going to be on: feedback and employee problems and counseling and ensuring that you, like I said, provide a solution, ensure that you carry out the policy and procedure of the company, but ensure that you understand that you are dealing with humans and life happens and you are the supervisor. You want to strike a balance where the person primarily comes to work and does their job, but they are going through a very tough period. And so you want to be compassionate. Okay, so primarily in your, more than likely in your midterm, that's what the essay will be on, solutions and counseling and what you should do. Okay, and so we don't want a bunch of fluff. We want you to actually talk about listening, and finding the solution and the steps that the book said. Okay,
Okay.
comments, concerns? Was anybody listening?
I was listening.
Okay. Okay, very good.
Mhm.
So you
So-
listen, and you want to agree. Yes, go
So I
ahead.
have read it's gonna be a case study, and then based on chapter 12 and our understanding, we would answer accordingly.
Yes.
Okay.
Just on this particular aspect, I take it on employee counseling, the chapter 12, the essay question.
What about it? What's your question?
The essay will come from this portion.
Yeah,
Employee
one
counseling.
of them. You'll probably have a selection.
Mhm.
You probably choose between one or two questions, but more than likely it might just be on this. Again, we just have a test bank and we pull out, each time, like the week before the midterm, we'll pull out questions from the test bank
Yes, ma'am.
and make a midterm. And so more than likely it's gonna be on this because I don't think, in this corporate Bahamas that first of all, we know how to speak to people, and secondly, that we even care when people have problems. So most of what happens to me, what I've seen happen is that people are very compassionate and express empathy when they have an issue, but when other persons have an issue, it's a problem. And sometimes the supervisors don't handle it properly. So we want to ensure that we understand this entirely and we can write what we would do if we were in a situation and what steps we would take and how it would be beneficial for both the institution and the um, employee. Because of course it started off with the scenario about Denise, and she was not she was very tired from being up all night. So how productive was she that day? Not very productive, correct?
Not very.
Probably
ma'am.
look at
Right.
that.
So it all ties right back into productivity. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So any other questions or concerns? Anybody not agree with this, or are we in agreement? Do we agree that it's the supervisor's job to come to a resolution? And really, I must care that Miss Bullet divorce, and I must work with her and understand that
I think
part of
so.
my job.
I think a supervisor must exercise empathy
Okay, because we working
because
with human beings and life does happen. And who really is the organization? A group of human beings that have real life issues, right?
yeah.
And
So,
it ain't always what happens, is like they say, it's not what happens. 10% is what happened, 90% is how you respond to it, right?
yeah. No.
Right. And if you're spending 8 hours at work, there's no way somebody can tell you just pretend whatever happened in your life did not happen for the next 8 hours.
Mhm.
And then go home on your own spare time and think about it and deal with it. Okay, so we want to ensure that when we become supervisors, we are compassionate, or even if we in the situation where the supervisor saying I'm having an issue with you, that we talk about them, say, I'm having some real life problems, and do you have a solution? Can you help me? I don't necessarily want to share with you exactly my personal business, but I do need some extra time, to deal with this or that. Is there any assistance, or can we come up with a plan so that I don't feel so overwhelmed throughout the day? So I want it to be twofold, where we are able to express correctly when we do something wrong. You excessively absent, But you don't say nothing when Blakely come absent, that is be our response. Blakely is come absent and nobody is saying, everybody is turning a blind eye. But that don't really come before you if somebody else is absent. So we always concerned, we always watching, we always talking about other people. So let's just focus on ourselves and ensure that we do what we are supposed to do and ensure that we act the way and we display the right behaviors. And when it's our turn, when we are in charge and when we become supervisors, we also display the right behavior and we provide solutions and we understand. Okay?
Uh,
Any questions or concerns? No? No? Okay, good. I'm glad it's clear as mud. Okay, so I will email your quiz, and you will produce that Sunday, and then we know for the presentations, our cameras are gonna be on and we are gonna be ready to present on the following Tuesday. Okay, did Yuri and Tanisha get my email and saw the attachments?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and so Tanisha, I think Yuri, you were here from the first class, eh?
Was last week?
Sorry?
Was that last week?
No, it was the week before.
No, my first class was last week.
But I mean, you are comfortable where you are because you've been answering very knowledgeably. So are you comfortable where you are in terms of the speech? Did you have the speech or no?
I see the question. I haven't viewed it in detail yet.
Okay, so Tanisha and Yuri, if you need an extra week, just let me know.
Okay, you
Ooh.
already.
Sorry?
Is that available for everyone?
No. You see why I should have called you all on the side?
Yuri, I gotta ask.
You all have 4 whole weeks. No.
You have not
And
because
then-
you asked not.
There you go. Very good. And your please go and write the vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish.
Mhm.
Okay? You all are perishing if you all don't have a vision. So please take it seriously. And if you have children, please teach your children. And you will see how your life will drastically change. Okay?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So y'all be great and have a fabulous weekend. And Kendrick, please try and get some rest and unwind and do something that makes you feel good and then get to Miss Bullet work. Okay?
I have a test for my lecturer. I have a paper for my lecturer, and I need to study.
You will be fine, Kendrick. You will be fine. And I take it home test, my lord, open book, where everybody get 100%. Stop it. You thank God it's open book and you
Thank
don't
you,
really
ma'am.
have to study. You can look through the book and get all the answers.
Thank you.
And all of this, you are welcome. Right. Okay, great. So y'all have a fabulous week. And what chapters are we covering next week? Because I don't want y'all falling asleep on me. So yeah, so because you're having so chapter 8, y'all can go through chapter 8, and again that talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So hopefully it's more interesting and it keeps you awake. But I'm welcome to feedback and discussions. We're supposed to be having provocative discussions, and it's supposed to be lively. But Miss Bullet can't talk to herself, so if somebody please delve deep into the chapter 8. This quiz is going to be very remedial, and like I said, it's open book. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So y'all take care and we'll do this again next week.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Good
All right, good
night.
night, all. Y'all have a
Good
wonderful
night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.